Award-winning futurist, researcher, and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton joins us on Canada Now. And Nick, this week we go way out there in talking extraterrestrial life. You've spoken to many futurists older than you over the years that really believe in that.
Yeah, I've had dinner with a couple of fellow futurists and very senior futurists, guys that are in their 70s and 80s, and people that have worked with governmental bodies down in the US and beyond, and are vehemently committed to the idea that extraterrestrial life is here and does exist in the world.
Well, there's a former Israeli space security chief that says extraterrestrials exist. In fact, the American government is aware of it.
Yeah, this is Haim Eshad. I think I got that name right. And so he's retired now, but he says that, and I quote, "A galactic federation has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we'll understand what spaceships and space and spaceships are." So an advanced race of aliens, people not from this planet, have been coming here for a long time. And he's saying that there's actually an agreement between the US government and aliens, and they signed a contract with us to allow them to do experiments here. I don't think that's necessarily human experimentation, but if you think about the early days, 1950s and Roswell and all of these sort of wild sort of speculations about alien visitations, I don't know, it kind of makes sense in a lot of different ways when you start to look at wider evidence.
Well, the unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. Now, I want to say at this point in the conversation, very early on, I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm very open to hearing about it because I haven't necessarily bought into the idea that this is absolutely false. There are many reasons in which all of this or some of this could be real.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Jeff. You know, I'm skeptical, but over the years, I'm becoming more and more convinced that it's likely that, you know, there is life out there. You know, whether they're advanced enough to be able to develop technologies to visit us, that's another question as well. So that's where the skepticism gets turned up to 11 for me. But it's interesting. I mean, the Pentagon released 3 leaked UFO videos just last year, and they're real, and they say they're a complete mystery still. And they said that they were unexplained aerial phenomena, and they first surfaced in 2017, and they're released on the world. And if you look at the clips, it's like they're certainly interesting to watch, and you know, we can speculate what they are and who they are really.
And I remember that time early on in the pandemic that comes out, and everybody just, it seems like everybody's reaction, Nick, was just, yeah, okay, well, that's 2020 for you. Moving on. Like, it didn't, I don't think it really resonated. I think it just kind of landed as somewhat of a joke and not really taken seriously.
I mean, we've had 70 years of misinformation, information, storytelling, crazy people, conferences, smart people speculating. We just don't know which way to turn with what's true and what's not true. So we have to sort of come back to, you know, some evidence, some things that we can, you know, have a level of trust in.
So one of those people that has come out and has gone on the record is Bob Lazar. Tell us who Bob Lazar is.
So Bob Lazar, and this is there's a documentary on Netflix, and that goes into interviewing him and asking him. He was a scientist. He was hired to work at an area of Area 51 called S4 for the purpose of developing advanced propulsion engines using something called Element 115 that hasn't been discovered. And he said that within a few days of working there, he was pretty blown away by technologies that acted as gravity amplifiers that he'd never seen before.
Yeah, and he said that he like dismantled alien spacecraft.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he's sort of been on the record for a number of years and sort of thrown in the crazy camp, as it were, in terms of oh yeah, don't trust that guy. And he's sort of back a little bit, and he seems an incredibly sane, normal person.
Mm.
Can we believe him? Should we believe him? It's very difficult to know what's true and what's not true. Is it likely that something like that exists? Well, it's difficult. It's probable that if there is intelligent life out in the world, they may have developed civilization earlier than we have. They may have become technologically advanced. They may have been able to find elements that help them harness the power of gravity and other universal physical phenomena, right? So it's and this is when I watched that documentary. It really started to switch me back onto the subject, and I got into it, and it's like, you know what, this is just becoming more and more convincing, especially because I'd had these conversations with other futurists that had spent time with people in the Pentagon and people in governments around the world that have sort of claimed to have had experiences.
Yeah, and more with Lazar, like he doesn't want the attention, and in fact he dislikes it to a point because he's gotten like death threats. His wife has gotten a death threats. So like he said it in the documentary, what do I have to gain by all this? I'm not coming out. I'm not trying to financially gain from all of this. I'm just telling you what happened when I was working there and my experiences and just leaving it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, without in a wider sense having other verifiable evidence to corroborate his story, we must only sort of take what he said at face value and make our own deductions based on a wider scope of research.
Well, there is like when you think about it, when you think about the universe that we live in and how big it is, like you start to think about it. And this documentary and just knowing that we were going to talk about this, Nick, it made me feel like such a small part of things that are going on because of how massive the universe is to a point that I don't think we could even wrap our heads around. There are billions of stars in the Milky Way that are said to be similar to the sun. So who's to say we would be the only planet that would be as advanced as we are, that would have life as we know it?
Yeah, I mean, the Kepler space mission back in 2013 sort of provided data and scientists sort of processed that and said, oh, there could be as many as 40 billion Earth-sized planets orbiting habitable zones of sun-like stars. So there you go. If you think about that, to me, life is highly probable in those places, whether it's like the primordial ooze in these places, right, that we saw millions and millions of years ago on Earth, or whether it's intelligence and civilizations that were formed millions of years ago, and they've been progressing in an intelligent way for that time. And we're behind the ball. I mean, the first city in the world was a city called Uruk in the region of Mesopotamia around 4500 BC, so about 6500 years ago. And the Industrial Revolution is only 280 years old. So we're young. We're not we're prepubescent as a civilization in a way. Is there life? Yes, I would say so. Is there intelligent life? That's when we start to really have a big discussion of the likelihood, right? If there was life and it was intelligent and it's been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and by a magnitude more than we have, would they have advanced in a way very similar to us? What would Earth be like in 4,000 years' time? Are we going to be more advanced? Yes. If you take that sort of scenario, that speculation, and put that onto another civilization, could they have developed transportation that could have brought them to this planet? Well, absolutely, because we're starting to see all sorts of, propulsion advancements and whatever happening here on Earth with scientists and science today. So this is where it becomes more compelling to me. But until, you and I are sat down with someone from another planet that says, hey, let me tell you a story about our world. I think it's going to be difficult to really, I'm not going to bet the house on it,
Yeah. Well, I wanted to throw this at you because there's a book by Michael Masters, a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Technological University. It's called Identified Flying Objects, a Multidisciplinary Scientific Approach to the UFO Phenomenon. And it suggests that it isn't extraterrestrials that are piloting UFOs. It's time-traveling humans from the future. Now, he isn't the first to suggest the idea, but he told Space.com, quote, the alleged abduction accounts are mostly scientific in nature. It's probably future anthropologists, historians, linguists that are coming back to get information in a way that we currently can't without access to that technology. How does that theory grab you?
It's one of the, when people start talking about time travel, Jeff, I get turned off unless it's like, science fiction, right?
Yeah.
H.G. Wells or whatever. I don't know. That's a bit of a tall story.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a tall order, but we've seen filmmakers sort of play with this idea. If you watch the film Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey and Christopher Nolan film, amazing film, one of my favorite films that I've watched over the last few years. It's all about these bulk beings from the future talking to humans today, and now they understand the extra dimensions of time and space and love and all these things, and it's a lovely story, Jeff. And let's just put that in the lovely story section of this conversation. I think it's too wild for me.
All right. Well, given all this and all the theories that are out there, how far into, and we talked about it from a United States perspective, how far into planning are countries around the world into giving all of this further study and preparing themselves for what some might believe is the inevitable in further contact or contact at all with extraterrestrial life? How much of this is a topic of conversations behind closed doors amongst governments and countries around the world?
Well, we just can't work that out, right? Intelligence communities, you don't know what they're doing because they're intelligence communities. They're covered by laws. The people that work within them like sign agreements, and obviously we're not going to know. All we can do is speculate. There's a lot of the stories like Bob Lazar's and other people's out there, and Haim Aisha, like we spoke about at the beginning of this particular chat. That are sort of stepping up. But, there's going to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of scientists working behind the scenes in many countries around the world that may be studying this kind of thing. And they might even be studying all kinds of alien artifacts as well.
Well, check out NikolasBadminton.com. Futurist researcher, keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton. It's great to talk to you. I would much have preferred talking to an alien during this time, but I'll settle for you. That's cool.
Yeah. One day I'll be able to tell you who I really am and where I really am from.
I've always thought you're from out of this world, so it does make a lot of sense. Nick, appreciate this. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Chat soon.